Hi, I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supply. Today I'm going to look at the AAE Hybrid Vane, so this one here. Now AAE have been making vanes for a number of years, and I'm talking AAE is the first vane I used on my arrow. It was the AAE Plasti Fletch vane, and back then it was a very rigid vane, so it was almost like hard. It had a very thin base, and to stick it onto the shaft you used to have to rub it down with acetone and then stick it on with super glue. It was a very, very hard vane. So if you can think of a hard vane on the market like Fletch or something like that, it was much stiffer than that. So if you're very old like I am, you'll probably remember them because everyone used to use them. In fact, they were see-through. A lot of them were great vane, but hard to stick. Then AAE came out with this vane. This is the Elite Plasti Fletch vane. And why am I showing this in the other clip? These arrows were soft. These vanes were softer and easier to stick. They had a base which was prepared for super glue, and you just put a smear of super glue on the base and it stuck. And I mean, those vanes weren't coming off. And they produced these in all the sizes: 1.6, 2.3, 2.6, 4 inches and 5 inches in basically all the colours. Now the colours, I would argue, were not as good as the original Plasti Fletch because they had these see-through colours and they really stood out well. But these things stuck and they were really, really cheap. Then a couple of years ago, AAE came out with this range of vanes. The AAE Max, the Max Hunter. Basically, and with these vanes you needed to prepare the base of the vane, and to do that you used the AAE Max World pen. So you'd wipe the pen over the base of the vane, then stick it. Now these vanes would then stick. The problem was if you didn't use the World pen, they didn't stick and they'd come off. So as a result, for me, in a shop sense and in a personal sense, I didn't go to the AAE Max vane. Now the AAE Max vane was actually stiffer at the base here, so try and zoom in, at the base here, and then softer at the top. So it was kind of a bit of a hybrid vane between the original Plasti Fletch and the new Plasti Fletch. So it was stiffer than the Elite, but it was a bit harder to stick, so it was a bit of an in-betweener. It still had the wide base, so they were relatively popular, but they didn't really make it into, you didn't see them in production for all the, I'm going to say, the mass-produced arrows in the marketplace, because it required, like, you know, cleaning of the vane, where normally arrow company or a shop would just want to stick the vanes on and get the job done quickly. It took extra time, I suppose. Now for me as a individual archer, it means you need to buy the World pen to do it, and these arrows here have been fletched probably 4 or 5 times in their lifespan of about 4 years, so I would have needed 4 or 5 World pens. So it's an extra cost, I suppose, that's what I'm saying. Now AAE just came out with these vanes. These are the hybrid, and what these are meant to be is a cross. So there's no solvent required on this base, you just stick them on. But they're still rigid at the base, and they so they're harder than the Elite Plasti Fletch, and they've got ridges in them. So you would have seen the ridges in, you know, your Eastern vanes, the Max vanes. These are like them, but you don't need to wipe the base of them down, so they should just stick. So when I was about to refletch my arrows, because all the vanes were coming off because I shoot them all the time, I was like, well, let's give these a go. Let's see how they stick and let's see how they shoot. So I've just fletched up all these arrows here. You can see the glue is still wet. They seem to stick really well. I'm going to say, so I fletched all these. I didn't have a single vane stick to the clamp. I didn't have a single vane not want to stick to the shaft. I don't know how they're going to go down when I shoot them, and that's part of this video. So we're going to see how they stick, and then longer term we'll see how they perform overall. So now the vanes I used before was the Bonnier vane, a very rigid vane, very stiff. They stuck really well. The problem I found with those was with the sharp points that these arrows have got, they tend to hit the rigid vane and then put holes in them, so then I've got to cut the vane off and re-stick them on. I then went to the XS VaneTech vanes. They're like a fairly rigid vane too, similar sorts of issues, less damage on the flights, probably don't stick quite as well as the boning vane to the shaft, but still pretty good. I think I've had 3 or 4 come off, and that's in about a year's span, so pretty good. So we're going to give these ones a shot now. So I've set my sight and I haven't hit the center yet, but that's okay, because what we're trying to do is we're going to try and see if the vanes fall off, because they've only just been fletched. We're going to see if hopefully the arrows will touch one another when they're in the target. So we're going to see if the vanes fall off when they start whacking each other. Bearing in mind they've just been fletched. So normally when you fletch arrows, you kind of leave them for the glue to set. So we'll sort of see how this all goes. But they look like a really nice fletch. Okay, so the AAE Hybrid Vanes come in 1.6 size, which is the same as the normal ones. They're the ones with a little curved back end. They come in a 187, which is like, it's a shield cut, so it's like these are a 2. Which is a bit weird, because AE in the past have done 1.6, they've then done 2.3s, and then they've done 2.6. But the 187 is obviously the size of the vane, which is obviously 1.87 inches. The 1.6 is obviously 1.6 inches. And the 2 inch is obviously 2 inch. So to me, the difference between 187 and 2 inches is like that much, and it's like, why would you bother? So I'm not sure why they've done that. I feel like it's just been done because target archers probably want the 187. Now, AE also make these vanes in a high profile for hunting in the 2 inch, so it's like your bony blazer vane. They obviously do them in all the other sizes as well. Now, one of the questions I'd probably get is about what size vane should I be using? Should I fletch straight or helical? Now, from my own testing that I've done, I've found very little difference in the size and even the type of vane where the arrow actually hits in the target. So if you saw these arrows before, they were just fletched with these vanes. I had bone-in air vanes, I had keep thinking XS, X vanes on there, and I would just shoot them all the same. They really made no difference to the groups. It's not like one group higher or less. Now you're going to say some of the vanes way different, and yeah, they do, but it's so minute, I really could not pick the difference in it. Now maybe I could at 90 metres, but not the sort of short distances. I couldn't pick any difference. Now when it comes to small versus large, obviously a smaller vane will have less drag, so where a bigger vane will have more drag. So for indoors, it's quite common for people to use large vanes, like 4-inch vanes, so the arrow is corrected, so it's shooting straight quicker. The difference it makes, I think, is minor. So for myself, I just shot the nationals. Obviously, I shot small vanes, and I shot pretty good. Now, I generally say that the people shooting the long vanes, like the 4-inch vanes, will be doing it on a fat shaft. And the reason they do it on a fat shaft is the fat shaft probably is not tuned as well as the skinny shaft they'd normally shoot, so they're using the vane to correct the alignment of the arrow. So to correct the way the arrow basically shoots out the bow. So that's where feathers come in for indoor, to get the arrow to sort of shoot straighter, quicker. Now if you're shooting a light poundage bow, let's say a 20-pound bow, you don't want a long, big vane because it's going to create too much drag and slow the arrow down too much. So probably the 1.6s would be the way to go if you're shooting a light poundage recurve. Now with longer vanes, like, well, these are 2 inches, for recurve shooting these would be perfectly fine because they're going to straighten up quicker than the 1.6. So like for myself with recurve shooting, I'd probably shoot a 2-inch. So it straightens up quicker than a 1.6. But you can always try this stuff out and see if it has any difference for you. I mean, I've never found any difference for me. Let's go and see these. So I tend to stick with around a 2-inch vane. Would I shoot a 1.6? Look, yeah, I'd have no issue shooting the 1.6 vane. I have no problem shooting the 1.87. I think longer than that, then I would have, well, ones if it's a windy day. Now, just on that point, I shot Clout Championships a few years ago, and the event was called off because of the amount of wind. Now, I was shooting a longer vane for that tournament, and I won the tournament. And like I said, the event was called off because of high winds, and I was shooting really high scores in high wind. But the vanes were a low profile, so I was getting virtually no wind drift, and that was at 180 meters. But the vanes were very low profile. If they'd been a high profile vane, then I'd be getting more wind drift, and you don't want that for long distance. So try stuff out. Now I did go to a nationals once with 4-inch vanes on a cloud arrow. That's for shooting 180 meters, and I was shooting amazing scores before the nationals. And I went down to the event, and it was a strong wind, and I was actually aiming at the other clout. So I was aiming like 20 meters left of the clout to hit the clout I was shooting at. So the arrows would go up and they'd sort of come down, they'd be like, just because there was so much drag on those vanes. Now helical versus straight, helical will create more drag, that cause the arrow to straighten up quicker. So that's up to you. For hunting, hunters will generally prefer helical because it gets the arrow spinning more and it will counteract the impact of a broadhead on the front. So with especially hunting, you want as much helical as you can get, but there's also the case where target archers will shoot spin wings or arrows with lots of helical to get the arrows spinning as quick as they can to create as much stability as they can, but it will create more drag. So maybe be a little bit slower than a straight-inch vane, and I've tested that as well, and I've had little difference, especially over 50 meters, didn't make much difference. Okay, so we're up here at the target. Now most of those are in the middle. There's probably a 9 out here somewhere there. The arrows are all tightly grouped. The vanes are all on. You can see like I'm pulling on these. They don't want to come off. I literally cannot pull those things off. And I like that. I like that I like it from the fact that I own a shop. And when I fletch arrows, the arrows, like I'm grabbing these arrows are stuck into the target up to the vanes, so I'm pulling these out by the vanes, and they're not lifting. They're like, see, like I grab that by the vanes. Now the glue is still wet and it's sticking to my fingers as I pull the vanes out. But there's two things. When you fletch arrows and the glue's wet and you put the vanes next to each other, the vanes can stick together, which is a complete pain. These arrows seem to be like they're in my quiver wet, and obviously I just got super glue on my hand. Look, these are great. I'm totally impressed. Now, this one vane here obviously got struck. You can see it's got a slight, well, I assume it's just that one there. See there, it has got a little ding. Now whether that's from me pulling the arrow out or getting struck in the target or glue on the vane, it doesn't worry me at all. So overall, the AAE Hybrid Vanes stuck really well to the shaft. They were very easy to stick. They come in a whole bunch of great colours. They come in lots of different sizes. They're very affordably priced. So there's more expensive vanes like Fletch, which are extremely good vane. They stick really well now. They're not requiring curing, but they're almost twice the price. But they are a really nice vane. The Elite Plasti Fletch vane, which I really like, is a little bit soft, and I get a bit of damage and a bit of crinkling over time. These seem really good. They seem to stick really well. I'm sold. I really am. I think they recover really quickly. Very strong, and like I fletched them a few minutes ago, and they're awesome. Like I can go and shoot them. So if you're at a tournament and your vane falls off, you can stick one on and you're in business. Now on the glues, there's a whole bunch of glues on the market. I'd use the gold tip glue with this. It's an instant glue. All the instant glues I find are pretty much the same. The level of fluid, how thick the fluid is will vary from company to company or glue to glue. In fact, AAE produce two types of glue. They produce a gel, which is AAE fast set gel, and they produce like a liquid glue, like a super glue, which is AAE Max Bond. Good glue. Good glue, comes in a nice bottle. It's just I'm sold out. I've probably got one left on the shelf back there. I just had a shipment in of gold tip, so I had all the gold tip glue. That's stuck really, really well. I've found no difference between any of the super glues to stick. That's the gold tips, the Vane Tex, the AAE Max Bond. They're all about the same price. I've had all the same amount of luck with them. They're all good. There's also the slow setting glue, the bone-in platinum. Now I don't recommend that for these types of vanes, which are built for the super glues. They're more for, in my opinion, more for feathers, wood arrows. I'd use those with. And they're a slow setting glue. They take about half an hour per vane to stick, where these, I basically built these arrows in next to no time. So I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies. That's the AAE Hybrid Vane. Check it out at your local shop. If you're refletching arrows and you want to try a new vane, give them a go. Not that anything's wrong with any of the other vanes I've used. The airs are great. The Vane Tech were a good vane, but these just stuck so well. I like the fact they're a little bit more flexible. They recover well. I'm happy, and the pricing on them's pretty good. So give them a go. Family-based company based in Arizona, America. Original owners from back, like they've been there for years and years. My sales rep, I mean, just retired, and she'd been my sales rep, I'm guessing, for about 30 years. So that's a bit sad. And she's probably been my sales rep for longer, but I'm guessing 30. It's a family-based business. It's a nice company. So check it out at your local archery shop. Thanks for watching. Bye.